Necron Tactics 8th edition. Let's have a look at how to deploy your army.
Necrons!
Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, in today's Necron Tactical video, I want to have a look at how to deploy your Necron army. Before that though, if you would like to keep up to date with the wonders of Warhammer 40k, then please give me a sub and hit the bell button so you don't miss an upload. Okay, so in this video I want to cover how to deploy your Necron army. We're going to go table down in a minute and get an army out and just have a look at deploying it. Now this deployment type that I'm going to show you in this video, I've named the mirror deployment. It's something which over the years I've gradually developed almost instinctively, and I find it works really well. So without further ado, let's go table down and have a look at what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's have a look at how we're going to deploy our Necron force. Now obviously everybody's army is different, and of course it all depends on what units you have, but hopefully this will give you a starting block, something to work on with your particular force. So in this video I'm going to cover the battalion FOC because I think that's probably the most popular one. So starting up, as you can see there, we've got an Overlord, we've got a Cryptic, 2 HQ choices, and at the moment I've just deployed a unit of warriors. I've got 10 warriors here, but the unit sizes in this particular video don't really make much difference. Whatever units you have, it's the ethos of how we're going to deploy them that counts. So straight off you can see I've got an objective. Now imagine this is a backfield objective, something in your deployment zone. Now placing objectives is obviously very important. Ideally you want to try and place them in cover if you can, turning your warrior save in this instance from a 4+ down to a 3+. Now if you had immortals here instead of warriors, that would become obviously a 2+ save in cover. The actual unit itself, immortals or warriors, obviously is irrelevant, it's just down to your particular choice. So I've gone with warriors here to start with. Now I would recommend, especially for Necrons, to have your starting phalanx, i.e. your warrior blobs and your immortal blobs, to be in a central position. The guns are only 24 inches, it means you can cover both sides of the board. You can shoot to the left, you can shoot to the right. If you start deploying your main phalanx on one side of the table, it means the other side of the table is pretty vulnerable. So I'd start off around the middle area, so try and get some objectives down in that middle area for yourself. Right, okay, so obviously that's just one troop's choice, so let's introduce the other 2 troop choices that we're going to need for the battalion detachment. Okay, so now I've introduced 2 more units. I've gone for warriors in this particular video, but they could be immortals if you wished. And you can see I've deployed these in like a little blob. And I've deployed with 2 units on the outside slightly forward compared to the unit in the middle, which obviously has the HQs in. Now because we've done this, it means that we can then move the HQs slightly forward, just like so, and that means now that the Cryptic has that 3-inch bubble on all 3 units. It also means that your enemy, whether they're coming in from the left or the right, has to totally destroy the units before they can start shooting at your characters. And that is why I haven't actually put the characters right at the front of this unit, they're actually in the middle. So even if they say destroy the whole of this unit and they're shooting in this way, they've still got to get through some warriors before they can get to your HQs. So that keeps them nicely protected. Obviously there are weapons that ignore all those rules, like sniper weapons, but at least it gives you a good starting block. Now one other reason why we've put the warriors either side slightly forward is because those warriors are going to potentially be moving forward. So let's have a look at why. More objectives. So imagine those 2 objectives there are in a central position. So now we've got options. Depending on the enemy, the army that you're playing and the mission itself, you have an option of either staying where you are, securing this objective here, with as many units as you can, protecting it. So even if one unit here, say for example, dies, you've got another unit there. Or if you're feeling confident and your army is doing what it should be doing and performing well up front, then you have the option to move the warriors forward. So after a couple of turns, our warrior squads are going to look something like this. We've moved the two outside ones forward, we're getting those objectives in the middle, we've daisy chained in a way that they're within 3 inches of the cryptid, getting all of the bonuses, and we've moved the back squad forward just to make sure we're securing that back objective. Obviously the front warriors potentially will start to fall, but that's okay. We've obviously got lots of other stuff in the army. Right, okay, so let's go back to deploying and add in some extra units. Okay, so we're back to our original deployment, and now we're going to add units to the army. Now these units that we add to the army obviously can be anything. In my case, I'm going to pick 2 destroyer type units. So I've got a heavy destroyer unit on this side and a destroyer unit on this side. But like I said, these can be any models. They could both be destroyer units, they could both be heavy destroyer units. The point is that you deploy both of these units either side of the flanks, and as you can see, that already starts to look like a mirror formation. So we're covering both sides of our flanks with our guns. Now I'm going to add some extra units as well. So now I've added 2 units of wraiths, one either side of the phalanx. And as I said, these can be any units. They can be annihilation barges, Doomsday Arcs, whatever you've got in your army that you want to play. But the key thing is to maintain this mirror formation, so ideally you want 2 of each of the units that you take, or at least 2 of the same type, i.e. heavy destroyers and destroyers, both the sort of shooting gun options. Now as you go out of the flanks to the right and left, ideally you want those units to be faster moving, and the wraiths are ideal for that. So what it means is, regardless of where your enemy hits you from, your wraiths have the movement to try and get to your enemy to intercept them. It also means that you're not vulnerable on either side of your phalanx here, because you're mirrored basically. So it doesn't matter if they come from the left or the right, you're the same. And that's a very powerful tool to have. Now if your enemy did come in, say from the right hand side, you can move your wraiths up to intercept, and if they're coming in from the right hand side with quite a powerful force, and maybe the left hand side is a bit weaker, then what you can do is start moving your left flanks to the right, and that is why you need faster moving units on either side of the flanks, because then you can intercept left or right regardless of where your enemy comes in. So let's go back to deployment. So we're deploying in this nice central position. We're not looking weak and vulnerable on either side of our army. These wraiths, bearing in mind, won't be right on the outer flank of your army. You know, you've got to imagine that this here is like in a central position. So the wraiths are going to be just to the side, and they can cover good ground. However, we might want to use the extreme flanks. So let's put down some more units. Okay, so now I've added 2 Doomsday Arcs, one on each side of our force. Doomsday Arcs are ideal for this because they have the long range guns. And that's what you need. If you're deploying on the side of the board, you want either long range guns or something which is very fast moving. So alternatively, these could be 2 units of Tomb Blades, for example. But the idea is that we still maintain that mirror formation. And this is very powerful. As you can see, it doesn't matter left or right, we are the same on both sides. And we also have fast moving units that can intercept on the left or on the right, like the wraiths. They could be scarabs, they could be anything. Okay, now sometimes, even with this formation, you're only going to have 1 unit of something. Maybe you don't have the points, maybe you don't have the models. So let's look at that. Maybe you have a single Triarch Stalker that you want to add to your force. The best place to put him is again in that more central position, so that he can gain an arc on anywhere he likes on the table. Now that may be slightly to the left, it may be slightly to the right, depending on how your opponent is deploying their force. That is what you need to do. You need to assess the situation for these single units. So it could be maybe you've got a Tomb Spider. So maybe you could place your Tomb Spider or Canaptic Spider in this sort of area so that you can push forward and get that Gloom Prism into range. Or possibly you may want to place your Tomb Spider over here next to your arc, enabling you to use the fabricator claw and try and keep them alive a little bit longer. So as I said, just adjust your single units to match the mirror formation. At least the core amount of your army needs to be in this sort of mirror formation. As I said, they don't have to be exactly the same units. I mean, this could be 1 unit of scarabs and that could be 1 unit of wraiths, but the format is that you've got 2 fast moving intercept units that can push forward. Now on top of this mirror formation, we also want to have a distraction unit. And you want at least 1 distraction unit in your army, if not maybe 2. Now distraction units could be a Doom Scythe or Night Scythe, a Monolith, a unit of Tomb Blades, deep striking Death Marks, an infiltrating unit of Flayed Ones. So as you can see from all of those units there, they're all units that have something in common. They get to your enemy very quickly, either with movement, like the Tomb Blades. You could potentially take a big unit of Tomb Blades, have that going down one flank of the table, distracting your enemy. You could be obviously deep striking maybe the Monolith or Death Marks. The Flayed Ones of course can infiltrate, or you've got your Flyer which can move very fast. All of those units have one thing in common: they're great at distracting your enemy in their deployment zone, whilst your main flanks here takes objectives, moves forward and starts pounding your enemy with their guns. And that is what the distraction unit's for. As I said, you want at least 1 unit in your army. How much you invest depends obviously on the points level that you're playing. So it could be a unit of 5 Death Marks, just 100 points, or it could be a Monolith for 400 points. Depending on how many points you've got left to spend. But either way, try and get at least 1 distraction unit in the force, not just this deployment. To be fair, every army that you play have at least 1 distraction unit in it. Very, very useful, very powerful. This deployment, this mirror deployment, is a very powerful deployment. So I'd recommend you have a go and try it yourself if you haven't done so already. Right, that's it from me. Thank you for watching. I really hope it was useful. I'll see you in the next video. Beam me up.